Hi, very warm welcome to Dusty Shelf Collectibles. Today we'll be reviewing these two kits from Tamiya. Yeah, as I say, welcome. Two kits from Tamiya today. The Max Moritz Porsche team, both of them in the orange Jägermeister livery, both dating from 1976, so exactly the same subject matter. Different releases, different years. This one's 2013, this is 2019, and obviously both in different scales. 1/24th and 1/12th. So my outset of this video, I picked these up just after Christmas. Some of the online shops were doing some good deals, and I picked these up particularly good to go into the collection. I do have a few model kits that I keep nice in the collection, and these ones I wanted to add to it. And I thought if I pick them up in both scales, it might make a good video to compare and contrast what's inside the kits. There's £100 difference between these two kits. So this one you can pick up somewhere between £30 and £40. This one is anywhere from about £130 to £150. So this one is a very expensive model kit, very expensive. So there has to be a good justification for taking that leap from what I would consider an expensive kit to a really expensive kit, and that's the sort of pretense that I was thinking this video could go with. Having opened the boxes and had a quick look inside, because I mean, I must confess I've filmed this video probably 6 or 7 times now and not got it right. So I have had a look in the video, and I have already shot some of the footage from inside the boxes. I think it's going to be pretty obvious, but from the outset, setting the pretense, what do you get extra for your money, and is it worth going there? You know, I'm not saying whether it's affordable, because I think both kits are very expensive. It's just whether it's worth going there if you're a serious model maker. So plan is I'm going to take these over to the bench, purely because I can film from above. We'll have a look at the boxes. I think this one probably I'll have to do the box review over here because it's just too big. We'll have a look at the boxes, just have a look generally what's inside there. Both kits are coming with photo etch parts, so that's always a nice touch. But we'll have a look on the, around the box, have a look what's inside, have a look through the instruction manuals, and then go into a detail of each sprue in each kit, having a look at the detail on the sprue and the way the mouldings are, trying to look for any discrepancies in the mouldings, any problems. And then finally what I thought I'd do is take key components like the two bodies and put them side by side, and then try and look at, the difference in the mouldings, difference in the detail that's captured in the mouldings. So as I say, this one, overall length is 179 millimeters. This one, obviously double the size, is 360 millimeters. Kit from 2013, kit from 2019. Let's go and see what we can find. Let's make a start with the 1/24th car. I love the box art. Got this black background, makes the car really stand out. It looks really, really good. I love this livery. The orange Jägermeister cars, they ran in many classes with the orange and the sponsorship. They look fantastic, and it reminds me of my other favourite one is the Porsche Valiant car that there's many kits of that around as well. I don't know my Porsches that well, but this particular livery does bring back memories from watching it in classic racing and what have you. I was a bit too young in 1976 to have seen this race. I was certainly around, but probably wasn't paying attention to it. Anyway, as I say, it's the Porsche Turbo RSR Type 934 Jägermeister livery. It's ran by a racing team, Max Moritz. They were a racing team that they're still, by all accounts, still racing today in various different guises. There's a little bit of detail here, sort of saying about the Porsche shield, etc., all covered by copyright and produced under permission, so it's a licensed kit. Got photo etched parts. Now this particular car was I think 25 and 26, and they were the winning cars for the championship for makes. Not a championship I'd heard of or was that familiar with until reading about this car, but yeah, one of the FIA series that this raced in. Gives a little bit of information here about the kit itself. So it's standard styling of the car with the flared wheel arches for racing. It says interior suspension and chassis undersurface have a high finish, so I'm expecting some detail. We've mentioned about the photo etch parts in the kit. Ready to assemble, precision model, detailed scale model for hobbyists age 14 and above. This is not a toy. Model may vary from the box, cement and paint not included. So that's the front of the box. On the side, with a little bit more information about the livery. And then it says, based on the Porsche 930 Turbo, the Turbo RSR Type 934 was developed to compete in the World Sports Car Championship, which started in 1976. 31 examples were produced. The 1976 World Championship for makes saw the Max Moritz team enter the RSL Type 934 in the vibrant orange Jägermeister livery. The number 24 and number 25 cars finished in third and first place respectively in their class, with the number 25 car scoring an excellent overall third place finish. So that's off the box here, so that's a bit more detail than what I was saying a minute ago. Kit number 328, just on the end of the box there. And then on this side we have, again looking down on the car, more about the photo etch parts, and then colours that you need to finish this. I think you're probably going to need some more colours, but the core ones are the orange TS12, flat aluminium, which is the XF16, X12, which is gold leaf, and X18, which is a semi-gloss black. And then at this end, yeah, just a repeat of the other end of the box. So look inside the box. Put that over there. So we have the exterior body, or the upper body. And we've got a sprue here with the underbody. Looks like some brake parts and some suspension parts on there, getting orange. We have a set of glass, quarter glass and main screen. Set of wheels. And this sprue has sort of the interior bucket, I guess, drops inside there, so you can see it through the glass. You got a seat, dash, various other bits of roll cage and interior components, and a set of wheels. We've also got instructions there, and this is a big blurb about the car in various different languages. So this is just basically giving the history of the series, etc. As I say, instructions there. We've got a set of decals and the photo etch parts, and then the base of the box are some handy hints and tips on building this type of kit. Okay, so gut reaction, underwhelmed, I think, is sums it up. So let's just have a look at these sprues. I'm just going to take these out of the boxes, out the packets, sorry. Just slide all of these out. Okay, so starting with the body, I think the overall finish is superb. The moulding is fantastic. There are no sink marks or weld marks on it. We get, you know, when they injection mold into this polystyrene, when they injection mold in, you get flow round the component in different paths from the injection point. If you get it wrong, you get like a cold front on the plastic, and where the two meet, you can get like a what they call a knit line, where the two bits of plastic join together. But I can't see any on this, so I'm assuming it's quite a complex mold to inject in different places all at the same time to fill in one way. Probably fills from one side right the way across in one go. But overall, really good, really nicely finished. No sprues to break off. It's all been cleaned. So yeah, that's really nice, really nice. And I like the way on the back here, you know, they've managed to get all this detail of the rear wing in one moulding, which is really good. Okay, so that's the body, the upper body. Let's go on to the lower body, and I guess thing to note here is we've got the engine block modelled in to the underside of the car, which unfortunately means that you lose a lot of the detailing on the side, because obviously when it comes out the tool would pull out this way, so all your features, you'd have a draft on the side here, so you don't capture any off stands on the side, which is a shame, but that's just, you know, that's one of these things. We got on here, let's have a look. So we got suspension parts here, which I'm guessing drop over. Just looking, got two locators there, two locators here. So I think this is the rear suspension. Got the McPherson struts here for the and the brake discs to go all around. That looks like a turbocharger here, which is one of the key selling points of this car. Is the fact that it moved away from what do they call them? Anyway, this is the first car to have this type of turbocharger on there. Various ducts in there. Okay, that looks like the steering column. So that's that sprue. And then onto this one. We've got steering rack in there, steering wheel, seat, one moulding of seat. There's the dash. No detail on the instruments. We've got obviously the brake lines there. Brakes. Exhaust lines here. Roll cage that has to be assembled. 4 bits to put that together, and various grills and things. Wipers. Anti-roll bar on the front there. I must say I'm kind of underwhelmed for quite an expensive kit. There's not many components here. I guess it's the finish. I mean, you're paying for the moulding, and Tamiya moulding is brilliant. It really is brilliant. And I guess the detailing in the kit is when all this goes together. Is once you get the detailing in there, it can be a very finished model. But I mean, this is not. This is an evening, maybe a day at most. Assembly. So let's have a look at the wheels. So moulding on the wheels is lovely, and lovely chrome finish on there. Not so good on the back side. We got under coverage. You can still see the orange poking through. This was obviously an orange sprue to start with because the orange is poking through, but I guess when this is up inside the wheel arches, you're not going to see any of that. So yeah. Buckets for the headlights, which is nice. Don't know what that component is, obviously. I don't know, something inside anyway. Tyres, no markings on the sidewall, just a basic tyre. There is you see on a flash line running round where the 2 parts of the tool have closed, running around the tyre. So I mean, there's nothing that a sharp scalpel will take off, but yeah. Okay, so that's those. I'll just pop that back in there. I'll do that in a minute. Right, the glass. Obviously got the lenses for the front glass. Got the wraparound on the rear, so it includes all the quarter light glass in one moulding. And there's a couple of side lights here. I don't know what these are. Various tiny bits of glass to put in. Side glass, all in one. So the rear quarter glass is moulded in with the door glass, and then you've got the front and rear on there as well. Quite nice moulding. I mean, there's no blemishes on there. They've really come out nicely. And you see, when I was saying about injection points, you see this is injected into the sprue here and then runs along and fills in one direction. So yeah, that's quite interesting. Photo etch parts. So on here we've got a couple of grills, and I'm sure these are, these fit on the parts for the intercoolers. So the grill's over the intercooler, and then these would be set back, I'm guessing. And then various other finer detail parts. But it's nice to have that included in this kind of kit. I mean, photo etch parts, they're not cheap to produce. And to have that in here, I just still feel that, the limited amount of parts, maybe this, I don't know, maybe it's, I'd rather see more detail, more complex assembly, and not worry too much about this, but that's just me. And then the decals, I can see in here. I don't want to take these out because obviously they're very fragile, and eventually I may want to put this kit together. So I don't know if this is showing up on the camera, but we got the dials for the dash here. The Jägermeister with the sort of 3D effect, so it's got the black corners around the edges. The Max Moritz thing to go on the glass, sun visor if you like, and the stag head. choose which car, 25 or 24. And we've got belts that I guess can be laid onto the seat. We've got various seat belts in there that but they do come as part of the decals and not as separate parts. Okay, quick look at the instructions. So we have got, this is number 1, we've got putting together, so underside components, that's like drive shafts. This is what I was saying about the you know, putting on the photo etch parts straight onto the plastic. Then we've got the step 2. I'm just checking this is showing up on the camera. So step 2, we've got the steering rack onto the McPherson struts, and then the 2 discs either side, and that drops in onto its own subframe on the front of the car. Step 3 is the rear subframe, so that just drop the discs on, drop that onto the car. Then the turbo, supercharger was the word I was looking for earlier. So this car was the first to sort of switch from superchargers over to turbo, so I understand. Then you've got your coilovers that drop in, the exhaust, which I've put into earlier, and the anti-roll bar on the rear of the car. Drop the wheels on, this is step 6, wheels onto the car. This is your interior, so we're now making up the bucket to go in the interior. There's your seat with your decals for the straps on the seat, the seat belts. 3/4 piece roll cage put together, drops onto your frame. The whole dashboard, got dials, as it says, decals to go on the dials, paint up the dash, steering column, steering wheel. That then drops into the car with the bucket. The whole thing is assembled on there. Then onto the underbody, bit of glass, mirror, various other details going in there. 11, okay, moving over. 12, rear glass, quarter glass, side glass and quarter glass. Drop the 2 sides together. 14, various details across the exterior details, mirrors, wipers, etc. And then 15, your final grille on the back, your air intake, and you know, just some final details. And then depending on how you want to finish it, the various liveries that you can put on from the decal sheet. So 15 steps. Overall impression, as I say, I think it's very sparse on pieces, which is a bit underwhelming, but the actual mould quality and the kit quality is certainly there. I'll just mention this very quickly. I think I've touched on it. I don't want to read all this out, but it basically, I read the blurb from the outside of the box, but this just goes into a lot more detail about, there's the English one. So it's in English, German and French on this page, obviously Japanese over there. I assume it says the same. My French isn't as good as it used to be, but yeah, it looks similar. German's a complete enigma to me, I have no idea, but French looks very similar. Yeah, so it just runs through the history of the class, the history of the 911, etc., and how that moved into the car, and then about the 1976 going down in history. So nice little, you know, nice thing to put in there. And obviously you got the exterior picture of the box on here, and then a couple of pictures of the car actually racing. So yeah, that's the 1/24, as I say, 193 in length. What I'll do now is I'll pop all this back in the box for now. Let's have a look at the 1/12 kit, and then, as I say, we'll bring these back out and we'll compare side by side the larger components with these. And I'm going to look at things like the details, like you can just see the washer jets on here. How are they shown on the other kit? Is that a separate part, or is it molded? And we'll just do a little comparison just to try and answer the question, is it worth spending an extra 100 quid getting the larger version? Right, let's have a look at the 1/12 version. Now, first thing to say is it is huge. I can't possibly get it all under the camera. I've got the camera mounted above the bench so I can photograph over the top. I can't fit it all in the frame. So what I'm going to do is I've taken a couple of pictures, and as I talk through the box, I'll drop the pictures in when I edit this together. So box art wise, not as good actually as the smaller variant. With a white box, it doesn't quite pop as much as, you know, still love the livery. I love the Jägermeister livery, and again, Max Moritz Porsche, You can see here my my kit was delivered, got damaged in the post unfortunately, so I do have a damaged box on this, which really does annoy me, but that's one of those things. And also unfortunately some of the side decals are faded. I can't show those because I can't turn it around, which is a shame. Anyway, just looking across it, so this is part of the 1/12 big scale series. Again, 1976. I'm repeating a lot of what I said before. Jägermeister livery, Porsche 934. Super detailed flat six engine, so that's obviously a nice detailed engine on this one. It's got movable front and rear suspension. Wow. Pneumatic rubber tyres, steerable front wheels, opening front hood, rear hood and doors. You can detach the wheels, and then the usual blurb: ready to assemble, precision model kit, detailed scale model for hobbyists, stage 14 and above. This is not a toy. Cement and paint not included. Model may vary from images on the box. And then over here talks about etched parts included in the kit. Now, as I say, this is huge, absolutely huge. I mean, it measures 60 in width, 60 centimeters in width, and 40 centimeters in depth, and probably 10 centimeters in height. I mean, it's a big kit, you know, if you are keeping this as a collector, you've got to bear in mind you've got to store this somewhere, which is going to be a challenge for me. But anyway, so on the sides of the box, unfortunately I can't show them very well, but you've got livery of the car all the way around. It's kit number 14800, and I'm just seeing if on here, yes, it does give some information about the paints. Let me just turn this around, I'm going to have to read this out. So it just gives the basic colours of TS12, which is orange, TS6, which is matte black, X18 semi-gloss black, and XF16, which is flat aluminium. I think they're the same colours as the other kit, as the 1/24 kit, but I'm sure you're going to need more paints for this. But what we'll do, let's have a look inside. And again, I can't show you the whole box, so I've taken some pictures, which I'll just put on the screen now when I edit. And let's walk through what do you get in this kit. So starting here, we have the body man sitting in the centre. We've got the rear section. We have the front area, the fenders, and that looks like the valance. Okay, on the left hand side we got a chromed sprue, which looks like bits for the engine. There's the intercoolers and bits on there. Again, chrome sprue. These are vented discs. This one is, I don't know what that is. It looks like a fuel tank. Looks like a fuel tank there or something. Something under the bonnet. Might be the front and trunk. Yeah, the front and trunk. Got fan housing, fans in there. Lots of detailing. Wheels, chromed wheels. Obviously, multi-piece assembly, which is nice. One set of tyres with some rubber hosing in there. Looks like a steering rack as well. Another set of tyres, various screws and a screwdriver. We've got a complete underbody there. Another piece of chromed, which looks like the buckets for the lights. Got multi-piece assembly for the seat. Running through these, I don't know what's in this packet. There's various bits of interior trim, door casings, etc. Exterior trim, the rear bonnet there, or the rear hood. Okay, sorry I paused there because I didn't think the camera was recording. So this looks like the roll cage. I'm running out of space on my bench. We got the interior dashboard with individual lights, various other components on here. Rear glass, that's coloured clear glass for across the back of the car, I'm guessing. Corner glass in orange. We've got the dash, various bits and pieces. It looks like the centre console. We have here gearbox casing, transmission and the engine. Got exterior doors here and the hood. Glass, nice big piece of glass there, and various components of belts and steering wheel, etc. on there. What do we have here? Right, we have, I'll just get rid of that. We got so this kit comes with detailing what each is on each of the sprues, so you can find parts. So I'm going to use this in a minute when we talk through the sprues. We've got information here. So this is what was printed in the other kit on the front, which is basically don't poke yourself in the eye, don't sniff the glue, all the usual bits. Okay, got tips. This was printed in the base of the box on the other kit, which are tips and helpful tips for putting the kit together. They're always good. Really, probably I should read that, but yeah, come on. Instructions here. Interestingly, this is again in the various languages, but it's quite a small, well, much shorter paragraph than in the 1/24 kit. But we'll compare that later. Then we've got the photo etch parts. I mean, look, these brakes are lovely, aren't they? And you also got the mesh finish on here. Yep, okay, that's those. And then we've got the decals. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this, and we'll just talk through maybe A to E to start with, and then I'll unwrap each part as we go, so I don't get in too much of a muddle. And yeah, let's walk through the kit in some detail. I'm going to film this in sections just so that I don't get myself in a muddle, and I am going to use this handy crib sheet to talk through the parts. So let's start with sprue A, which is the bonnet, the doors. There's various other bits on there, look like the door hinges and the sills on there. Overall finish is pretty good. Oh, there's actually a sink mark in the door here. So where the hinge is attached, just here, I don't know whether the camera's picking this up, but there's a thin area. And if you're doing this properly, that's going to need filling. So yeah, that's not too great. Yeah, it's only on this door. This door seems to be okay. It's still very thin. You can see it when I get the light on it, but this door does actually have sink in the moulding. So that's sprue A obviously in white, in polystyrene. Onto B. Here we've got, so unlike the previous kit, I know I'm going to do a comparison in a bit, where you've got the bucket that comes from underneath. Obviously this all builds up in the detail. So we've got the complete firewall here, which obviously the steering column etc goes through. We've got a console unit that sits on there. I'm not sure what that is. That looks like the rear of the car sitting in there. Various other bits and pieces, I don't know what they are. Okay, so that's B. C is in grey, again polystyrene. So I think it's a gearbox. So this is a transaxle. I believe the transaxle on these. Very detailed. And this is what I was talking about on the other kit, that although where the transaxle was mounted, because it was taken from underneath, obviously you don't get any of this detail, but we'll do a comparison of the kits in a minute. And then obviously the engine block here being a flat 6, so as the engine sits in, the cylinders are either side. Really lovely detailing. I don't know, again, I don't suppose the camera's picking this up, but on this, on the ribs on here, they're all perfectly formed. Got belts, belt housing for the front of the engine or rear of the engine. Obviously air cooled these. And then it looks like this is the flywheel. I don't know whether you can see that or whether it's just an internal part, but already you can see the difference in the kits. I mean, it's quite foolish to try and form a comparison. Parts D are the glass or glazing. So on this kit we've got individual quarter glass, the side glass there, front glass obviously locator for the mirror, got separate corner glass, headlight glass. Lovely details modelled into the headlight covers. I don't know again if that's picking it up. So Back then you'd put covers on the lights if you were travelling on the left-hand drive, right-hand drive cars. You'd put and this was moulded into the headlight, so you could change the way the beam was focusing. And then finally got a chromed part here. These look like the buckets for the front lights, and then we've got some corner buckets. These look like mirrors for the side and the center mirror, that are actually, you know, properly chromed parts that are reflective. So lovely. I don't know what these are, probably door pins or something, I don't know. Yeah, so that's the first 5 sprues. As I say, I'm going to do this in stages so I don't get myself in a muddle. So I'm going to pop all those back in their bags and then get the next batch out. Now, second lot parts. So let's start with parts F, which should be these. So part F, molded in black, as you can see. On here we got a nice detailed steering wheel, the grille, perfectly formed, perfectly molded grille, superb. Trailing arms, there's your anti-roll bar, various suspension components here. Looks like an air intake there. Yep, so that's nice detailing bits on sprue F. Okay, then G. This is, we've got on here some exhaust components, left and right exhausts. So you can see these are individual components. On the other kit they were moulded together. And then again the roll cage, which is far more complicated. You know, still only 4 or 5 pieces, but still, you know, it's catching some of the cross members. I don't recall seeing those in the other kit. So that's mainly the roll cage on part G. Then H, we have the dash here. And as I think I mentioned, individual dials on this dash. So the 1/24 kit just had a single decal that covered the full dash there. This has got the detail in. I'm guessing these are possibly brake calipers. In here they've got some various ducting, another grille. Again, lots of detail parts on here. Fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And there's the turbo sitting at the back there. I'm guessing that's a turbo, don't know. Okay, and this one I think is quite intriguing because of it's molded in sort of a opaque plastic. It's still polystyrene. I did wonder whether it was ABS initially, but no, it's still PS. And on here again, looks like more components for the brakes. Obviously I like this because, you know, you've probably used this as the colour and drop it straight in without painting it. So this is your sort of fan covering, and there's your fans there. Quite a typical colour, I guess. And then these, I'm guessing, now they're either the fuel tank, which I think they probably are. Yeah, I reckon they're the fuel tank. I did wonder earlier on whether they were the front and trunk, you know, when you lift up the hood and the bonnet, whether they sit underneath. But I think these 2 pieces, looking at the shape of them, they go together, so they form a box. So I'm guessing that's the fuel tank. But so that's that component. It's quite intriguing colour actually. And then finally, let's turn that over. So yeah, that was J parts. I don't know what's happened to I on this schematic. I'm assuming I is probably the body, but we jumped to J, so they were the J parts. And the K parts, I've not got K out, but I have got L. So let's review L while I've got them out of the packet. So the wheels are absolutely superb. Visible from both sides. So when they're assembled, obviously this would form the other side of the rim. You know, they're really nice, really nice. And you know, I don't know what these components are here, but they are textured. If we get the light on them, these are very slightly textured, not a smooth finish. I don't know what they're for. And we've got wheel nuts here. Yeah, so single wheel nuts for the centre. Yeah, they're going to look lovely, absolutely lovely. Okay, so I am going to skip back to, that was the L parts. I will skip back to K because obviously I've got the wrong piece out. So let me pop these away and then we'll go on to the next ones in a minute. Right, stepping back one to part K.
which I missed out. So this is quite interesting, because this is a chromed part, but it's chromed in a matte finish, so it is different to the other. It's not in a polished finish, so it's a matte finish. And obviously the details on the brake discs here, absolutely amazing. And through the intercoolers, or radiators, whatever they are. Unfortunately in there, I don't know whether that's showing on the camera, you can see that there's either an injection point, I think they're injection points, but they're certainly showing through onto the surface, which is unfortunate. I don't know, maybe that's intentional. It's on both, yeah, it's on both radiators, or both intercoolers, whatever they are. But it's like this white circular piece, but it's the same distance from the edge. So yeah, maybe they're supposed to be there. I've been a bit unfair. Various other components on here for detailing. Yeah, amazing amount of detail. A cross brace there for the front of the car, going across the top of the McPherson's. So that's parts K. Let's go to P next. So parts P again. Matte chromed componentry, various air intakes, intercoolers, radiators, whatever they are, on that part, but again a matte finish, which is nice. Then Q parts, which are these. Now these are moulded in PE, so polythene, so they're actually a very rubberized finish, very flexible, very rubberized. So you've got the rear spoiler here, which is fantastic, because it's a flexible or semi-flexible material, which is, I guess, what you'd see on the real car. You know, it's a rubberized component, and obviously the bumper insert, or the under skirt, I guess that is, looking at it, the under the bumper. So yeah, lovely finish that is. I really like that, the fact that there's a different texture and feel to the materials. Okay, so that's Q parts. And then the same with the R parts. Again, I'm just going to check, they are moulded in, I can't see that, yeah, PE, so polythene again. These are the door cards. You got the door bin, I guess these are door bins with the handles that sit on there. Yeah, and the fact they're moulded in a different material, going to be a really exquisite finish. Various other detailing components here. Yeah, superb. Back to the polystyrene parts. So I mentioned this one before. So we've got a little spoiler or something, some air intakes, and the rear scoop on the back, which obviously, you know, this spoiler is going to sit on the back there. Yeah, okay. So that's the S parts. T parts, moulded in orange. Lovely detail in the lenses. You see vertical lines in this one. I hope the camera is showing up on the camera, and then sort of a mottled finish through here. Beautiful detailing. This is going to be such a lovely model when it's together. And then U parts across the back of the car, different textured mouldings in the transparent material, obviously in red there. And then V parts, I don't know where these go, but moulded in grey, polystyrene parts, various bits of trim, or, you know, piping or whatever that goes on there. Then we have the seat, modelled in multi components. Obviously the headrest is somewhere else on one of the other screws, I didn't see that. We've got a separate bolster to drop in there. We'll talk about the seat belts in a minute. So that's those. I'll just pop those back in their bags, and then we'll carry on with the rest of the detail of the kit. Now let's look at the body parts. Let's take the main body to start with. Yeah, lovely. I said all this in when we went through the kit initially. You know, there is not a blemish on this at all. Really lovely moulding. I like the way it comes in separate parts. So obviously we've got the front assembly here on its sprue. You take that off, clean up the edges, and then I'm guessing this is you know, this is the front valance that fits on the front there. Really, I might have that up the wrong way. Yeah, look at that, like that way round. That looks superb already. And obviously with this kit, you know, moulded in white, so you are going to have to paint this, so it is going to have to be sprayed. You can see the way in which the body is going to fit onto there. Absolutely marvellous. Marvellous. Really is a lovely kit. So that's the front. Front's all looking really nice. Yeah, no problems with that at all. And then the under chassis. So big difference with this, obviously, we said on the smaller kit the engine was moulded in, but this is a separate moulding in its entirety. You can see there's no bucket in here, so you're seeing the floor pan directly through. Once you've got the console on there and the seat on there, this is the floor that you'd see. So again, probably this would be dusted over in like a matte black or something. I'm sure it will say in the instructions what colours these are, but also lovely moulded wheel arches, you know, proper contours on there. Yeah, fantastic. So yeah, the body parts looking really, really nice, really clean. Not a blemish on them, not a blemish on them. So, you know, they with a good wash to get the release agent off, and then they'll spray up straight away. As I say, definitely spray paint. And I'll talk about Tamiya spray paints in one of my future videos. I've just sprayed the body on a Tamiya lunchbox RC kit, and ended up using so much paint. It's sort of pushed me down the route that I need to start thinking about airbrushes. So that's going to be a future project, and maybe this will be the first thing that I give a trial with the airbrush. So we'll see how we go. Anyway, I'll pop these away, and then we'll just do the last few bits. Right, so the last few bits here. Wheels, again, no writing on the side of them. There is still the flash line around the centre, but again, that'll come off with the knife if you so choose to do so. It's not as pronounced as the other, as the 1/24 kit, but yeah, wheels are there. Then you've got some various hosing, rubber hose, and also in here looks like the boot for the steering rack. Remember, this car does have working steering on it. So that's that bag. In the other bag, I'm not going to open this one up, but there's 2 more wheels, and then in the bag here we've got some. Actually, I'll just pour this out and let's have a look. Let's grab a knife. So in here we have 2 wheels. We've got several screw bags, but in this bag here we've got some piping or some hosing, but also you can see in there some copper wire. There's also 4 springs. So again, recalling back that this has got working suspension on it. There's your 4 springs, so proper coil springs in there, various bolts and fixings, little screwdriver and a couple of tyres in that bag. So that's yeah, lovely detail, lovely detail. Put those in there. Right, on to, so I did show this earlier, which is the photo etching, but what I didn't pick up on, I'm just going to slide this out, so I'm not sure if the camera will pick up on this, but it's actually over painted as well. So I'll put it back on here. What you can see is, like, so the buckles here and the little white dots on the brake fins, they've all been picked out with a white paint. The same with the grille here, been textured with a white paint, which is really nice touch, really detailed. And while we're talking of that, I'm just going to touch on going back to the seat. As I say, you've got a separate bolster in there. The reason you have a separate bolster is the belts are actually printed onto a piece of fabric, which is in here. Comes in the decals. As I say, I don't want to open the decals or anything, but you can see the individual belts are printed in here, and then on your photo etch parts you've got the individual tongues here, you've got the center buckle, you got the various different buckles all in here to build up and assemble the seat belts. So rather than seat belts on the 1/24 would just straighten the decals, these ones you're actually going to have fabric belts sitting loose in the seat. So really nice, really nice. Okay, so that's the photo etch parts. Decals, you get 2 liveries for the Jägermeister. So this is the what I call the 3D Jägermeister that we saw in the 1/24 kit, where you got sort of the black edging to the material, to lettering that gives it depth. And then you've got straight white livery, again 24 and 25. I'm guessing the cars probably may have a different livery on them, so yeah, you can choose the livery that you wish. You've got the same stag head there, and then the Max Mortiz name there. You can see it's got the curvature of the windscreen in there, and again you can choose in yellow or white. I don't really want to open this, but yeah, I can't move those decals over, but you've got individual dials in there. You can see the individual dials that go in behind the glass on the dashboard. Yeah, so that's those. The other things in the kit, just to mention, as I said, you get your tech tips. So let's have a quick look through the instructions. So small blurb about the car. It's very similar to the blurb on the other car, but actually a different text. So it's not transposed from the 1/24. This goes on a lot more about the supercharger and the turbocharger, switching between the two, and then gives a very brief overview, whereas the other one was a lot more in depth, which is strange, you know. On the cheaper kit there was a lot more information on there. But anyway, through the instructions. So these are basically the usual, you know, being careful, mind your eyes, all that kind of thing, giving you some hints and tips. As I mentioned, so paints required. I mentioned the base paints off the box, but here, I mean, it gives you much more detail. So we're talking a TS12, TS21, an X1 and X2. So these are orange, gold, black, white. Then an X7 in red, an X8 in lemon yellow, an X10 in gunmetal, an X11 in chrome silver, aluminium, X12 in gold leaf, and then we've got an X18 in semi-gloss black, an XF1 in flat back, an XF2 in flat white, and then an X16 in flat aluminium. So there's lots of paints required if you want to get the proper finish on this kit. So I'm going to do the same as I did on the 1/24. I'm going to run through the steps. So step 1, underbody, various bits of detail going on there. That's what I couldn't work out what those components for. So they're obviously the suspension strut tops that fit in there. Step 2 is your pedal assembly, various interior components sitting on there, so pedals and what have you. Step 3, center console. You've got your gear shifter, handbrake lever. Step 4 is where you put in your bulkhead, seat runners, then dropping in the console assembly all onto the main lower moulding. Okay, step 5. So assembly of steering rack, and here you can see, I'm just checking the camera's picking this up, you can see the rack and pinion for the working steering in there, various boots to add on, and linkages through to the wheels. Step 6 is your trailing wishbones. Let me just rephrase that. No, they're the front wishbones. Step 7, putting the brakes together. So brakes are 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 components per brake side. And here you can see where you put your vented discs on. If you recall, there was on the chromed parts, we had multiple parts for the brakes. Well, obviously these are vented discs, so when you glue them together, this will have the vents showing inside the brake disc, which is a really nice touch, really detailed. And then over to number 8, you've got assembly of the McPherson strut with the working spring on there, so working suspension on this model. That all drops into the car, being careful in some places, I'm guessing not to glue your suspension joints. Then again on to number 9, which is the rear trailing arms, again building up the various brake components there, with vented discs, and then dropping into the rear of the car, making up your rear shock absorbers to hold the parts in there, and again being careful not to glue those solid. Onto the engine, so assembly of the block, assembly of the transaxle, various components. Onto 12, where we're now adding on to the detailing, and you can see this was in this pack here, the little tubing and wire that we spoke about comes into play, which are your sort of HT leads that run around the car with different lengths marked out. Into assembling the fan dropping on top of the engine. Again, lots of detailing on there, so still building up the engine assembly. 15, so now we're up to the same steps as the 1/24 kit complete. We're on to step 15. So step 15 in this kit is the upper side of the engine, then assembling the turbo and various other bits to go on top of the engine and the back of the engine. Step 17 is the exhaust on the underside, and look at the detail down the side of the engine. Fantastic. Step 18, dropping the engine in. Looks like we've got screws to fix the engine in place should you wish to remove it to add more detail or clean it. You know, I'm guessing you can disassemble it as it is held in with these screws. On to 19, again more detail added in. 20, yes, more detail on the upper side of the engine. 21, now here you can see the dashboard, as I say, individual dials of the decals, but then I didn't pick up on the fact that it has glass inserts that go over the decals, so that's really nice. And also the steering column assembly, so you know the various bits of the column all working through. Remember, this is a working system, so all of these parts are running through bearings all the way down to the front of the car through various different joints. Being very careful to understand what's to be glued and what isn't. Then on to the battery casing. The battery, I say the battery casing, I don't know what this part is, but you've got a fully detailed battery there, which once that's glued together, I didn't pick that up on the moulding as well, so there's a lot of parts there. Put that together. On to the radiators, down here, the side rads, the front rad or intercooler, I don't know which they are, but anyway, they're down there. And this is what I'm talking about with the seat belts. Look at the complexity. So you're talking fabric belts folded through your photo etch parts, and then threaded through and dropped into the seat. It's going to look fantastic, absolutely amazing. Over here, the fuel tanks are those parts that I spoke about with the transparent material. That was indeed the fuel tank, dropping underneath with the cross brace across the strengthening torsion bars on the front there, dropping your seat in. Number 28, assembling the roll cage and dropping that onto the lower body. 29, we're now starting on the exterior parts. Obviously this is now all sprayed in orange, dropping the detail in with your different coloured lights, dropping into their respective buckets all the way around. Little rubber edges to the buffer, which these will be the polythene parts, which are slightly rubberized. And again, on your rear closure, you've got hinges which allow it to open and close, and your little rubber components around here to give it that texture and nice feel. Glazing, front glass, individual quarter glass, rear glass, all dropped in, really nice. Then your hood, or frunk as they now call them, which drops on again with their respective hinges that allow it to open and close. One thing I did notice with the mouldings, there's no warpage in all of this. I did check them, laying them on the flat surface. So things like the front, they should sit quite nicely. As long as you get the body on square, they should all drop down nicely and you shouldn't have them twisted at all. Then various build up on the front of the car. You've got the headlight housing in here and the various bits of the bumper. You can see here some of your photo etch parts dropping into the air intakes. Then the glazing on the doors. Originally I wondered if the glazing, because I saw these bits on the moulding underneath, I wondered if the glazing dropped, but it isn't. These are just fixing points. So again, these fit into the doors drop on. Again, the doors are opening components. Then step 36 we're on to. We've got the rubber pipes that were in this bag. These rubber pipes look as though they're air feeds for the brakes. Assembly of the wheels and tyres, that's great, and then they screw onto the car. As I say, they're fully removable. Then final detailing of the body. You've got the sills going on there, the wipers, and various other bits and pieces, and the mirrors on there. And then finally adding your livery to the car. You've got 24 there, yeah, it's marked out as 24. I'm guessing, you know, you've got the decals there if you want to do 25. But yeah, what an amazing kit. So reaction, whereas with the 124th I was underwhelmed, this one I'm fully, you know, overwhelmed, absolutely overwhelmed. This is a real modeller's kit, a real enthusiast kit. There is enough parts and detail in this. This could, you know, be on a par with any model kit that is out there. It's absolutely superb. And I mean, I don't know that I could do something like this justice with my skill set, but I certainly plan to give this one a go at some point. It looks fantastic. Yeah, so gut reaction, really impressed with this. So I'm going to take a couple of minutes and go and get a cup of coffee, get my voice back, and then what I want to do is, although it seems quite silly to do, is compare the two kits and then start to try and draw some conclusions. Okay, I'll be back in a moment. Right, for what it's worth, I'm going to still compare the two kits, even though just going through them there's a very distinct difference. So in terms of information, so the information sheet's a separate sheet in the 124th car. Obviously, as I mentioned, I do prefer the box art, you know, with the background here, and you get a couple of pictures. There's a lot more, you know, there's a lot more information actually with the 124th than the 12th, but similar details. So that's the information on the car. I've been through the instructions, but just to say, this one, you know, we were talking about 15 steps on the 112th car. You well over double that. And obviously, I mean, each of the steps, I mean, some of these steps, there's as many parts as there are in the whole kit on the 124th. And in the conclusion, I think the conclusion I'm drawing is, who is this aimed at? But I'll come to that in a bit. So that's the instruction books. Next, let's have a quick look at the decals. So just laying them next to each other. So as I say, these, you get one set of Jägermeister livery in here, which has got the black touches to the side. I don't know if this is showing up very well on the camera. Let me just lift it up a little bit, so you can see that it's sort of a 3D lettering, whereas on the larger kit you get options. The sun visor, I guess you'd call it, across the top of the screen with the Max Moritz Porsche. I mean, it's a straight livery here, so when you put the curvature of the screen, you're obviously going to have some of this. It's going to be a little bit harder to fit than the curved decal there. Obviously fabric belts, whereas on here you got decals of the belts, one clock screen, whereas on here you got individual clocks to add. So yeah, a lot more detail, a lot more decals obviously. Comparing over, just putting side by side the photo etched parts. I mean, again, I'm not sure whether there's value in doing this comparison, having looked through the kits. So very similar grills and external grates and things, but then you get all the belt components and obviously the discs, and then on top of that, as well as being photo etched, you've then got the detailed painting on here and the various white components. So as I say, with the 124th kit, it's still nice to have photo etched parts in there. It will set the model off, but I mean, I fear that they've been as an expense to possibly some further detail in the kit. But okay, so that's the photo etched parts. Right, comparing the bodies, I mean, I think it goes without saying the size difference. You know, this is huge compared to the 112th, double the size. So, I mean, stating the obvious there. So this is coming already pre-molded in orange, in the orange colour. Don't necessarily have to paint this, you can just add the decals on if you wanted to. Still think it'd be nice to be painted. This, on the other hand, you're going to have to paint if you want to get the correct livery. Obviously, assembly in multiple components on the 112 kit. If you remember, I did mention about the door, this door. There is definitely a sink mark in there that would need filling. So there is a problem with the moulding there, but I mean it's the only moulding issue I've found on the entire kit when I've been through it, on both kits. So apart from that, which is a shame, everything else is pretty good. Details wise, I think I did mention, so on here we do have things like washer jets on here. They're much more pronounced and obviously much more detailed because they can get away with that. Obviously the opening doors on here allows them to put much more detail in how the closure is finished. We've got on the larger kit, you can see sort of the rubber around the edge where the window would sit in. So this would be like the black rubber that forms around it. You don't have that on this kit. The window would just drop in there. The rear closure, front closure, they're all molded in on this obviously. And let's just have a look at the rear. I think the rear pretty much is very similar details, sorry. You do have these standoff parts here that I can't see on here, and some of the lights and that are actually, because you probably got lights to add on to there, but yeah, okay. And then at the front, yeah, very similar. So they're capturing similar levels of detail across the bodies at least anyway. Just a little bit more pronounced and a little bit more finessed on the larger kit. You know, things like on the wheel arches here, you can see you've got a very distinct wheel arch line modelled into the plastic, which is where the wheel arch extension will be added to the existing body. I don't know if the camera's picking that up. There's a very distinct line, whereas on here, although there is a line there, it's just fettled through. It's not as distinct, you know, it's not as sharp in the mold. So okay, that's the body. I'll just pop these back in the box. Right, let's have a quick look at the underbody. So the main difference is the engine is part of this moulding on the smaller kit, and it's things like the transaxle, because, and I mentioned this before, because where it comes out the tool slider will come this way to let it out the tool. You lose all this side detail on the transaxle. You can see all this detail here. You know, you lose all of that. You lose all of on the cylinder heads for the engine. You've lost all this detail. So I mean, it's nice that there is an engine in there that you can paint up, but there's no comparison. Obviously, there is no comparison. And then the other thing to mention is, building up the interior on the smaller kit. You've got a drop-in bucket that forms the interior, so there's very little detail on the moulding itself. Wheel arch wise, this has very pronounced wheel arches. They're very sculpted. On this one, they're not so sculpted. Again, looking at the way, possibly an injection mold tool was put together, because they've tried to get the full wheel arch depth in there. Where this has come out, they've had to make compromises in the way this sort of chamfer runs through. You can see on here it's all very curved and very nice. This one is very blunt and very crude. So yeah, it's I don't know, as I say, for what it's worth, comparing these kits, in real life, you wouldn't compare these. These are two very different and very specific markets, although I'm not sure what this market is, but we'll come to that in a minute. Just then, talking about the brake discs, I think I said there was 13 or 14 parts to make up the brakes, and obviously with these discs on the larger kit, you glue the two parts together, which then give you the vented assembly. So there's a gap. When you look down from the top, you'll see some fins inside, as opposed to one part full assembly of the brake discs and pads and calipers all in one. These are all built up, not chromed, so when you paint these, you're obviously going to have to paint them because they're orange, but they're certainly not going to look anything like these. Not as good as this by any stretch of the imagination. And then suspension wise, I won't get all the parts out again, but there's not many parts in the smaller kit. That's my concern. Okay, just touching on the seat again in the larger kit. bolsters, headrest, all separate components, seat belts, fabric seat belts, multi complexity with the different buckles. On the smaller kit, single seat, and decals for belts. And then finally just comparing these components. So glass wise, you know, the glass is very similar in terms of quality. You've got the rear glass and the various headlamps. These have exquisite detail on them. These do have some lines on, but I don't think they're to the same detail as these. You've got single piece side glass and quarter glass, whereas on here side glass and quarter glass is separate. And then the various filaments here in the larger kit are molded in their respective plastic colors. Wheel wise, I do actually prefer the wheels on looking the exterior of these wheels. These seem much more intricate than the detailing on this kit. They seem to have sort of the curvature on them, where these feel a bit flat. So the smaller ones, for me, with my eyes, do actually look slightly better. But then, having said that, you know, when you then look on the other side, these will carry through and have a chrome finish on the inside. These are just going to look, you know, there's orange paint peel showing and all kinds of things. So these are purely one-sided. These you get both sides on, but I do, as I say, I do think the moulding looks better on the smaller wheels. So that's those. And then tyre wise, as I say, neither tyre has any sidewall writing. I'm guessing maybe the larger kit, I couldn't see it on there, probably got some decals that you can put on the side. May even have them on the smaller kit, I just didn't see them. And then, as I say, there's flash around both tyres, but much more pronounced on the smaller kit. So for what it's worth, there's a quick overview on the sprues. I just want to do one more thing, so just bear with me. So here we have just the sprues from the two kits, no bodies or wheels, tyres, sorry. This is the 1/24 kit, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 sprues of parts. For the 1/12 kit, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 2 in there, so that's 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So 19 sprues of parts compared to 4. So I think the answering the question with £100 difference between the kits, is there justification for that? I think it's safe to say yes. Right, I'm going to box all this back up and then go back over to my chair and try and draw some sort of summation to this video. There you go, all back in the box, all back in their polystyrene bags. All went back in the box fine, actually, no problems at all. So how do I conclude this video? So the challenge was comparing two kits, different costs, different sizes, different scales, from the same manufacturer of the same topic. So again, the Porsche 934. I guess let's talk about each kit first of all. So the smaller of the two, the 1/24, I was underwhelmed. I didn't feel there was enough components in there to warrant, you know, I mean, these do sell for £40. You can pick them up, as I say, for 30, but even at 30, I think, yeah, okay, the moulding is great, the kit is great, and putting it together, you can get the detail in there. It'll be a lovely model when it's done. At £40, I'd expect more parts in there. Even though it's got some photo etch parts, I just felt it just lacked the amount of complexity that I would hope from that style of kit. Right, so let's park the smaller kit there. So the larger kit, I was absolutely blown away with. Absolutely amazing. The different moulding, as in the chromed parts, some in matte finish, some in gloss finish and the shiny finish. Then you've got the rubberized components on the bumper made out of the polythene, and then the other parts such as the foam surround and the fuel tank, etc., made out of that sort of semi-transparent polystyrene.
absolutely amazing kit. The detailing, the functionality as well, working suspension, working steering, working closures, brilliant, absolutely brilliant, couldn't fault it. Now, as I say, the challenge of this video, would I spend £100 more on this kit? Absolutely. Would I generally buy a model kit for £150? Probably, yeah, no, I'm not sure, because that puts this into a different league altogether. And this is the problem I've got with both of these kits. Who are they actually aimed at? I'll give you my conclusion, and I'll be interested to hear yours. By all means, leave a comment or message me. I'll be interested to know what your thoughts are. So, the smaller kit doesn't have enough detail in there for a complex modeler. So, unless you're going to do this in some sort of diorama and you just wanted this as a feature in there, this is, as I said, I think when I was reviewing it, this is an evening, at most a day. And it wouldn't be a challenge to, a seasoned modeler. So that puts this kit aimed at sort of the younger or beginners market, but at £30 to £40, let's say £40, that's the retail. £40, this is now an expensive kit. I'm a little bit out of touch on prices on model kits and things, because I know, in the last few years things have gone up considerably, but at £40, this is an expensive kit. So I'm kind of challenged, who's this aimed at, because it's kind of sitting between two markets. It's not really aimed at your younger beginner because it's too expensive, but it's equally not got enough content in there to challenge your experienced modeler. So that's my thoughts on that one. The larger kit, however, brilliant for the seasoned modeler, somebody who's looking to invest a lot of time over many evenings, maybe even months. There's enough detail in here. You could spend weeks and weeks and weeks on this kit to get it perfect. My fears are that one mistake in there, and I'll refer back to my personal skill set, I'm prone to making tiny little mistakes that really, I would only ever notice, but I notice them. You make one small mistake on this and this could carry through the kit. Rather than it being perfection, there would be a flaw in it. And I think because of the detail in there, everything when you build it has to be perfect. And this brings me to my worry, who is this one aimed at? Because if you are that much of a perfectionist and that much of a seasoned modeler, then you are now into the realms of somebody who would scratch build, who would potentially build things much on this kind of complexity, would build from the bench rather than from a kit. So with it being the price it is, I think the retail price is 150 on this. As I say, you can pick it up I think for about 130. There's a few of them around still, but at £150 for this kit, it's aimed at a very specific market. And I don't know how big that market is either. I consider myself to be a seasoned modeler. I don't think I could do this kit justice. And normally, although like I say, I've got quite a few kits that interest me in the collection, I wouldn't normally spend £150 on a model kit. So yeah, from the outset, it was which one of these should you go for, and my conclusion is I'm not totally sure. I mean, they are putting finances to one side. It depends on what you're looking for. If you're just looking for a model of the Porsche, this is the one to go for. If you're looking for something that you're going to invest a lot of time in over many months or many nights, depending on how quick you want to build it, then this is to go for. But if you're getting into this kind of realm and this kind of cost of kit, then maybe would you invest that in a plastic kit? I'm not totally sure. So there you go, there's just my thoughts on it. I'll be interested to know what you think. The most thing for me though is I've actually really enjoyed doing this video. I mean, I know I've filmed it, but I never take the time when I get a kit or something, just take the time to go through it all and think it through and look at each sprue in the detail and actually absorb what comes in the box. So I've thoroughly enjoyed doing this, and I am looking forward to I will build this, depending whether this channel's still going, I'm still making videos, maybe I'll film parts of this. I fear I'm not going to do it justice, but I certainly want to give it a go. It's a lovely model, and I think, you know, if you can get it built to a certain standard, this is the kind of thing you put in a display case and keep nice. I did do a Italia rig, a lorry, a couple of years ago. I spent months, well actually I spent years, because it was spread out over a couple of years. I kept coming back to it, and when I finished that, there was a couple of tiny little areas in it that, you know, I've got little bits of glue and things that really niggle me, but when you look at it, you know, you can't spot them. You have to really get microscope, and I was so pleased with that, and I've got that sitting in a cabinet and it looks fantastic, and I think this is another one of those kits. So yeah, anyway, thanks ever so much for watching. I hope that was of some interest. As always with these things, I'm late to the party. There's several reviews already on both these kits, I believe, out on the internet and on YouTube, etc., and get other people's opinions. This is just my thoughts on something that's new to the collection. So yeah, we'll leave it there. Thank you ever so much for joining me. Thanks for watching.